Now, days after horrific Bucha massacre in Ukraine, which killed hundreds of innocent civilians, India Today's relentless coverage on the brutality resonated in the parliament here in India. Minister of External Affairs S. Jaishankar has strongly condemned this killing. India has strongly put out its views, while S. Jaishankar says India condemns the killings that took place in Bucha, insisting on an immediate cessation of hostilities, saying India is encouraging talks between Russia and Ukraine. The Foreign Affairs Minister has also said in the best interest of India is to ensure citizens are not subject to additional and unavoidable problems. In fact, we see that S. Jaishankar addressed the parliament during a debate on the Ukraine crisis in the Lok Sabha, and also further said that India stands by an independent probe into the killings in Bucha. Further, while discussion of India purchasing oil from Russia, it was brought up in that debate, S. Jaishankar has said that every nation adopts policies that safeguards the well-being of its population in complex situations.
Sir, many honorable members brought up the incident, the happenings in Bucha. And I want to say that we are deeply disturbed by the reports. We strongly condemn the killings which have taken place there. This is an extremely serious matter, and we support the call for an independent investigation.
And there you have it, S. Jaishankar, who's supporting the call for an independent investigation into Bucha killings, while India has, right from day one, condemned any kind of violence, has always encouraged dialogue between Russia and Ukraine. The killings in Bucha now gathering worldwide condemnation. India too stepping in, asking for an independent probe. While speaking on oil, buying oil from Russia, of course, S. Jaishankar further deliberating on how India must look out for its people, citizens and national interest first. Now, we're looking at Ukraine's war that's now entered 42nd day and counting. Doesn't seem like Russia has de-escalated from many parts as it promised. And even if it did, we're seeing civilian casualties in many parts of those areas where they retreated. And these are unfortunate scenes that India Today brings to you from different parts of Ukraine. India Today and its relentless reports resonating in the parliament, while S. Jaishankar, the foreign minister, has brought up the issue. And on a debate between Russia and Ukraine's crisis, India very clearly putting out its stance, condemning violence and killings in Bucha. S. Jaishankar saying that India stands by an independent probe into these killings. Furthermore, India's relations with Russia in terms of buying oil, S. Jaishankar says that India's citizens' interest will be put first. Meanwhile, Moscow is indeed facing global revulsion and accusations of war crimes after the Russian pullout from the outskirts of Kiev. Ukraine raised the Bucha killings at UNSC and called it one of many Russian genocides. United Kingdom and the European Union are now calling for stricter sanctions against Russia. Here's more.
Streets strewn with corpses. Bodies buried in shallow graves. Burned bodies left in the open. The grisly images of battered Bucha have sparked global outrage. Ukraine has raised the Russian brutality in Bucha at the United Nations Security Council. Kyiv has urged the UN to strip Russia of its veto power.
The
UN system must be reformed immediately so that the right of veto will not become the right of a death, so that there is a fair representation of all world regions in the Security Council.
Without naming Russia, India condemned the civilian killings in Bucha and called for an independent probe.
We unequivocally condemn these killings and support the call for an independent investigation.
Moscow is facing global revulsion and accusations of war crimes after the Russian pullout from the outskirts of Kyiv revealed horrors inflicted on the civilian population. The UK has urged G7 to ban Russian ships and set a timetable for oil and gas exit.
On Thursday, I will be urging our NATO and G7 partners to go further in sanctions by joining us in banning Russian ships from our ports, cracking down on more Russian banks, going after industries that are filling Putin's war chest, like gold, and agreeing a clear timetable to eliminate imports of Russian oil, coal and gas.
Germany, France and Spain have expelled dozens of Russian diplomats following the Bucha killings.
I announced that this morning we have decided to expel Russian diplomats and staff from the Russian embassy in Spain, who represent a threat to the interest and security of our country.
The United States is seeking to expel Russia from the UN Human Rights Council.
Yes, the president does not believe, he believes it's ludicrous for Russia to be a member of the Human Rights Council. And certainly the ambassador spoke to this today, and while she was on her overseas trip, and she will continue to make the case in her role when she returns to New York.
Russia has rejected all the charges. Kremlin claims Bucha is a monstrous forgery aimed at maligning Russia.
Российской стороны в адрес российских военных.
The entire course of events, a huge amount of data, facts and other parameters do clearly witness that this is a forgery conducted to try and smear the Russian army. It will not work.
Russia is facing other grave charges too. The UN has accused Russia of using cluster bombs in Ukraine.
OHCHR has received credible allegations that Russian forces have used cluster munitions in populated areas at least 24 times.
Cluster munitions pose an immediate threat to civilians during a conflict. Such bombs randomly scatter sub-munitions or bomblets over a wide area. The Convention on Cluster Munitions is an international treaty that prohibits all use, transfer, production and stockpiling of cluster bombs. World leaders are calling for tougher sanctions and accountability for alleged Russian war crimes in Bucha. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, Russian attacks on the Donetsk region has turned into dust, but Ukraine also won't back down. Ukraine missiles have reduced a Russian military camp into rubble. Schools have been destroyed amid fierce resistance. India Today's Geeta Mohan brings us this report right from that combat zone.
Massive shelling, massive operation over here in Evacuation. You can see there, smoke still billowing. This entire camp was attacked. It had a lot of tanks, armored vehicles, Ural trucks and artillery carrier vehicles as well has been attacked. So officers over here trying to now assess the situation. They're trying to retrieve all the armored vehicles, artillery carriers and tanks as soon as they can and save as many as they can. But if you see over here, the situation pretty bad. The forces have moved out of here and they're trying to retrieve as many as they can. This is also a base camp where captured Ukrainian tanks and armored vehicles were brought in and then were sent for repair and then to be reused. So a very important camp over here has come under Ukrainian attack. Joined by Officer Ilya, who will explain what really happened over here and how are they trying to contain the Ukrainian forces.
Дальнейшие наши действия идти вперед и только вперед, не останавливаясь. Занимать непосредственно, возвращать.
The only action he is planning now, he knows that we're gonna continue to push and taking back our grounds, which is must be under public control.
So ask him how many Ukrainian soldiers were they? This was his force, his team. How many Ukrainian soldiers did his team capture?
Есть у вас вообще за время операции, были украинские пленные у вас?
Да, были много десятков, потому что наш полк уже порядка...
So they took around 17 villages and small...
Все, надо прекращать.
Okay, let's stop it.
Thank you, sir. We're here in Volvanaka, a city absolutely destroyed. Irina is a resident. Irina, tell us your experience of what really happened over here. You're living over here 24th of Feb.
From 24 to 10, 12 of March. It was very horrible. What else? A lot of жертвы.
Victims.
A lot of victims, childs, old people, young people.
Lost their lives. How many people left Volvanaka after the attacks? Did they leave the city?
Some lived, but returned, partly returned, and I think now from 5 to 10 thousands.
People are back?
Yes.
Why? The city is destroyed. There is no life right now in the city. Why are you returning?
Because it's my home. I had here work. I had my house, but some partly destroyed, and I think.
You want to rebuild it again, I guess.
But no, so soon as we want.
Major evacuation operation being undertaken over here in Volvanaka. The people over here will be evacuated to camps in Dokuchayevsk, which is a city not very far from here, only to ensure that they're in a safe place, have food, have shelter till the time the city in all probability is reconstructed. So there is a process in place. People's names are put on a list, and those whose names are on the list are taken by buses. A destroyed city that requires humanitarian aid and food. The queue that you see over here are of people of Volvanaka who have queued up to receive their daily bread. This is a van that has come to distribute bread to the people of Volvanaka. There are various other vans that come with other food items, but food is scarce. There is no gas and electricity in Volvanaka, and water also becoming rather scarce in the town. So they're using it with really economically. Administration trying to ensure that at least there's some help that is provided to the people of Volvanaka who've decided to stay on and not leave the town. So this is the first day we have arrived, so have the people from Donetsk. Food for Life is now going to provide food every day. But how difficult was it, if you could ask this gentleman over here, how difficult was it for the days when this food was not being provided?
Тяжело очень было, очень.
It was very hard, he said.
How are they managing food then?
Как вы справлялись? Откуда брали еду?
Ну, запасы, которые бы оставались, вот, те запасы и ели.
So they used supplies they had and share it between each other.
The irony of the conflict today. What you see behind me is called Red Square, taken after the Red Square in Moscow in Russia. Many people over here are still pro-Russia despite the destruction that their city has witnessed. And unfortunately, this Red Square has also fallen victim to the latest conflict. But the people over here say that in 2014-2015, they consider themselves part of Donetsk. And once it was taken over by Ukraine in the 2014-2015 conflict, the statue of Lenin was taken down on the other side. And today we see that the Red Square also no longer stands. When did this food start coming to the city?
From 2 weeks ago, maybe even earlier, I don't remember.
Are you a student?
Yeah. Student from Kharkiv University, Kharkiv National University, HP.
You see destruction everywhere. Are you angry that your city is destroyed?
That's hard to explain, but it's war. It can be rebuilt from. It took years, maybe, but it will be rebuilt. I hope so.
Почти с того света вытянули. Спасибо людям в белых халатах. Низкие поклоны. С Докучаевска. Очень благодарю. Очень.
Her husband was evacuated to Dokuchayevsk, and he was saved by doctors there. So she's saying thanks, big thanks from her to doctors who saved his husband's life.
The extent of damage over here shows what really happened in Volvanaka. This is a BMP-2 destroyed, homes bombed, shelling marks on the walls. To take Volvanaka, it took a lot of fight between the Ukrainian forces and the Russian forces. Homes over there, school, absolutely destroyed, bombed. This again is a city that bears a deserted look, but there are still a lot of people who are not going to leave the city of Volvanaka. They're determined to stay here to rebuild the city. Many others who have no place to go. And then there are those who have already left Volvanaka. With video journalist Satya Rautre in Volvanaka, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Now, the Ukraine invasion has taken a toll on President Zelensky. The biggest indicator here is how his attire has changed from that of a president in a full suit to now a leader leading from the front in an olive green T-shirt and sometimes even an army gear. Here's a report on the transformation of this fearless President Zelensky.
A clean-shaven President Zelensky in his suit and tie addressed his nation on February 22nd amid gathering Russian war clouds. Weeks later, dressed in an army jacket, a bulletproof vest, an unkempt beard, and often sporting a bulletproof army helmet, this is President Zelensky reinventing himself, changing his attire as per the need to lead his nation locked in a fierce fight back. The war has taken a toll on the sartorial sense of President Volodymyr Zelensky, transforming a suave, urbane and nattily dressed president in a tailored suit into a wartime president in combat fatigue, battle-ready and boosting the morale of his forces.
Ukraine is defending and would not give its freedom, whatever they think in Moscow. Russia cowardly attacked our country early in the morning, very much like Nazi Germany did during the Second World War.
Presidents
do not usually write down addresses like this, but today I have to say just that, to talk about the discoveries in Bucha and other cities from where the occupiers were expelled. Hundreds of people tortured, killed, and civilians executed. Bodies on the street. Booby-trapped areas. Even the bodies of the dead are booby-trapped. Widespread aftermath of looting. Concentrated evil has visited our land. The killers, executioners, rapists, murderers, who call themselves an army and who deserve only death after what they have done.
Zelensky has also traded his suit for a plain green round-neck T-shirt, popular with soldiers ever since Russia waged war on Ukraine. From addressing the United Nations, the US Congress, the EU Parliament and the Grammys, the wartime president Zelensky's dressing sense has made him a cult figure for those who back Ukraine, sending a message that the wartime president is leading from the front.
І зараз ми потребуємо рішень.
The UN system must be reformed immediately so that the right of veto will not become the right of a death, so that there is a fair representation of all world regions in the Security Council.
Zelensky's military round-neck T-shirt has become a fashion trend as well, making it popular for T-shirt motif across the world. The change in appearance for a president is usually that of greying hair, but Zelensky's transformation shows how times are tough for Ukraine. And what can be a better symbol of hope and strength than an olive green shirt-clad president who switches into combat dress in solidarity? A connect between the president and the army fighting for the motherland, choosing the most accessible